sense that electricity in the air.
There's no way around it. 2016, Jax McCleary came on the scene, and the CIG made a monster.
Things are really going full blast as expo goers swarm the hall to get up close and personal with all the latest and greatest. And we're right alongside them, elbowing to the front of the line to get a first-hand look at a brand that inspires as much loyalty as it does uncomfortable glances. I'm talking, of course, about Drake Interplanetary. If controversy made your ships fly better, then Drake ships would probably fly a heck of a lot better. That's not to say piloting a ship from the no-frills manufacturer doesn't have its advantages. These are ships designed to get you from A to B in one piece, often with all your stuff still aboard, and sometimes, if the rumours are to be believed, with other people's stuff too. To quote Drake's marketing team, these are multi-role vessels, which, when translated, means they may not do anything perfectly, but they do a hell of a lot pretty damn well. We'll put that to the test later on when we see if the Drake Caterpillar is the perfect ship for hosting a wedding. There's plenty more coming up as Galactic Tour's Intergalactic Aerospace Expo special continues.
I'm sure that nobody will disagree that Drake certainly knows how to party. I think it was a little interesting and a big risk they took. This is I chose this one because it's like really sets the tone for 2016. This was brought to you by Voyager Direct, by the way, which was like this type of system you could buy, basically things for your trinkets for your hangar. And this old subscriber system was all through the Voyager Direct system, which eventually got consolidated into the regular shop, into the extras section of the traditional shop we have, the regular shop we have now. But anyway, I think it's kind of funny how any company would be wanting to associate, like if even Voyager Direct want to associate with Drake, especially with strippers with guns. But hey, that is what Drake's is. And it also shows how Jax McCleary was very comfortable with controversial topics. He wasn't afraid to take a pop shot at Drake and their vaguely pirate-friendly mentality. Also note the use of a blurred background. I believe that the blurring helped with the, basically, this was a very early engine. By 2016, you know, not everything was all set up, and this made it a little easier for them to get this out the door, the teams that were working on this type of stuff.
Anvil ships are a classic example of designing with a purpose. Every angle of the hull and every rivet is there for a reason. And Anvil isn't happy just to rest on their blowing stuff up laurels. With the likes of the Carrack, Crucible and Terrapin in their lineup, Anvil has gone beyond military function to begin to really make a name for themselves in the private sector. Of course, a cynic might say that Anvil has to expand because Aegis is horning them out of all those sweet UEE contracts. But then again, I'm not a cynic. I say the more ships, the better. And boy, are there more ships coming up. Make sure you stay right there.
Once again, this is a great world building, talking about how Anvil is having a lot of trouble keeping Aegis off of the military contracts, and that basically Aegis is winning a lot of them, alluding to the capital class ships like the Aegis Javelin and the Aegis Idrises, PK and M, that serve the UEE fleet and the Civilian Defense Forces, the CDF. Whereas Anvil is simply building a bunch of Hornets to fit in some of those ships, particularly the Idrises, and the Bengals, the carriers. So it is an interesting type of dynamic here. I thought it's really cool that they kind of tied it into Jax McCleary's commentary and how he's pointing out that, hey, I'm pragmatic about this. I love the fact that companies have to innovate and develop brand new kinds of ships that maybe are outside their comfort zone, but they bring some of their best and brightest and their quality of building of equipment and be able to develop something new. For example, the Carrack, an older ship, but technically I think he's alluding to these contract issues have been a long-term issue for Anvil Aerospace. So just really nice little thing there.
To be perfectly honest, I can't think of a better way for Origin's ships to be celebrated than with drunken revelry. From day one, Origin has been crafting vehicles that are as fun to fly as they are to look at. I'm talking the stuff of locker posters. The kind of ship that few middle-aged pilots can resist the allure of. Sure, people may think you're a pompous arse if you come cruising up to the local Cryastro in one, but what do you care? You own a 350R. And they don't. Of course, the fantasy does tend to fade a bit when you have to fly an Origin ship day in, day out, and a few of the more questionable design choices start to rear their ugly heads. Yes, for that much money, you'd expect the seat to be comfortable. And sure, they tend to drift more than a senator making a promise. But then again, who cares when you're flying a ship that looks as good as their new 85X?
If you've ever wondered why Origin is such a polarizing company, almost as much as Drake is, this is why. Even back in 2016, there was this connotation of Origin being looks over usability or practicality. And if you notice a nice little Easter egg there, the 350R that was behind him was the old school 300 series, not the newer one that later got revealed. That's a little fatter, but has full services on board and interesting different changes in its loadouts. So just something to keep in mind. And that year's big push was for the 85X runabout, which is probably the most, aside from the 100 Eyes, even it's worse than the 100 Eyes. It's not a very useful ship. But hey, it is what it is. So just some interesting tidbits. Origin was known as the party company. Not exactly great at racing, even though it has its racing pedigree. You even heard him talk about how it drifts, the ships drift, which doesn't make any sense. They're a precision company that's overpriced for what they offer and does sometimes have looks over utility, of course, but it was a little overblown for the show, which is, of course, in the character Jax McCleary is going for.
There is no manufacturer currently making ships half as interesting as these bastardized hybrids of human and Xi'an technology. While they may have the handling of your living room couch and cockpit visibility of a Min sunset, the bold design choices featured in the Reliant alone are enough to set my cold black heart beating again. MISC, like the way its ships handle cargo, is determined to drag us into the future. And whether you think the Xi'an are trustworthy or not, you have to admit, the bastards know how to make a ship. Make sure you catch my one-on-one sit-down with their lead Xenotech engineer when Galactic Tour's Intergalactic Aerospace Expo returns.
That's right. The human and Xi'an combination ships. Just did a review of 30 minutes long on the Reliant Mako, and it's covered a decent bit of its sister ships. But this is something that's interesting that a lot of us forget often, is that MISC has that tie-in with a alien race, which is important if you think about the upcoming Xenothreat 2.0 and, the Nine Tails Lockdown. A lot of these pirate agency organizations, at least some of them, are anti anything to do with aliens. And these ships do have ties to alien species, or at least have technology loaded onto them from those locations, a shared technology between humans and the Xi'an. This is kind of an interesting thing as well. I think it's very cool to see a tech demo of a ship literally in the video where the Reliant is taking off. And I think it's something special here. I wanted to capture that part of the video and show how this is it's not just showing off blurry backgrounds, it's also showing off a mechanic of a ship that is not well known, and also letting you know a lot of background on that company but from their lore is now becoming real and becoming something you're staring at right there, being the ships that they're co-developing between two different species. Very cool stuff.
At the expo, regular type people have a wonderful chance to discover some real gems. There's the newcomers like Kruger Intergalactic and Consolidated Outlands, who are still trying to prove themselves worthy with their early outings like the P-52 and the Mustang. Then there's the more exotic options, like Esperia's beautifully reconstructed Prowler, or the Xi'an and their shifty Scout. Have you ever stood on those floaty stairs? Don't trust them. Sure, the ship flies like a leaf in the wind, but would a ramp have killed a Poa? But maybe the best hidden treasures are the ones you can buy. With a full range of IAE exclusive items on sale, from rare parts to limited edition ships, Galactic Tour will take a hard look at which swag is the most drool-worthy when our special Intergalactic Aerospace Expo coverage returns.
Aside from Consolidated Outland being considered the new kid on the block and being put in with the exotics for 2016 with the Mustangs, there is a few other interesting tidbits here. The biggest one I want to focus on is, oh boy, I think I'm going to get called out for this one. The Carthrual. The Xi'an Carthrual, made by Apoa. He mentions the Apoa. Would it kill Apoa to get the stairs? That's what he's referring to as this ship. Those magnetic stairs, if you noticed, are something that has been carried over into a much larger concept, being the Raylan. It's often like this, where you have something small that later informs the big. Those Gravlev elevators that you see in these designs came from ships like the Carthrual, having those stairs that float. It's just a light fighter, but its design, its looks has informed so much more, even for a company that isn't even the same company. In the case of the Raylan, it's the Gatak Raylan, but it's from the concepts of these floating and magnetic designs that you can see where designers come up with these ideas and bring them over and inspire other ships. And I'm not going to say the Nomad. I know a lot of you are going to say, well, the Nomad, well, it's a little different. The way it floats is designed. It's not truly the same design. It doesn't. Anyway, let's just stick to what we got here. And we're almost done the IAE.
Roberts Space Industries. The name is almost as synonymous with spaceflight as the term spaceflight itself. Sadly, although they may have invented the quantum drive and dozens of other technological wonders we rely on every day, they haven't been at the cutting edge in centuries. But then that's not why you fly an RSI ship, is it? You fly them because after all this time, their ships still remain at the forefront of exploration, on the front lines of battles, and in the hangars of new teenage pilots everywhere. You fly them because their ships work. And here on the expo floor, RSI is clearly working overtime. Not only are they bragging non-stop about their new Polaris, but they have their full, impressive range of ships in every class and size, proudly on display. To that end, when we come back, we'll finally tackle the eternal question: how many Auroras can fit inside the mighty Bengal's main hangar? That and more, as Galactic Tour's Intergalactic Aerospace Expo special continues.
So if you caught that, they reference both the Bengal, which we've only seen flying in-game this year, and also they had the Polaris without even showing the box or a picture or anything. They just mentioned it in passing about how great the Polaris is this round. So whenever you hear people, including myself, that were complaining about the Hercules drive-through where Jax McCleary in the last ship sale was driving through the middle of a Hercules in his thing, and yet the Hercules wasn't even on display, it's been worse, trust me. A lot of people, including myself, were taking a look at these videos, and then when finally we were able to get home and be able to actually take part, realized there was no Polaris on display. Not saying we were surprised, but at the same time, there was a lot of the community that were just going, dang. So yeah, and there's a little bit of history here. Reminding us RSI designed the Quantum Drive, and the RSI Zeus was like the first ship. He didn't mention that, but the first ship to achieve the flights that we need to be able to get around the way we do. And space flight is basically directly contributing from RSI's actions. But as he pointed out, both between their technology and their, I wish he would have mentioned the struts, and their struts, they still have their needs to go. I'm excited to see the RSI Polaris finally on the horizon. Would love to see what Jax McCleary will do with a Polaris and size 10 torpedoes to throw around. So we'll see how that goes. Yeah.
It should surprise absolutely no one that the Navy has a big presence here at the Intergalactic Aerospace Expo. Not only are there secretive behind closed door talks to be had with the ship manufacturers, the IAE is a prime opportunity for recruitment. For many ship enthusiasts, the only way they'll ever get to fly the incredibly fast and powerful machines on display here is to sign up and serve. Going a long way on that front is the presence of the reckless Squadron 999 and their stunning flight acrobatics. Nothing prepared me for how much I wanted to climb into a Sabre after seeing what those insanely skilled starmen could do with one. To be fair, that's pretty much true of a lot of Aegis ships. Sure, they look nice in the hangar, but it's when you see what one can do in action that your eyes get a little misty and your heart starts beating a little faster. But if you're sitting there right now saying, I don't really care for the Sabre, well, you're in luck, because Aegis makes about 1 billion other combat ships to choose from. With the speed and variety with which their ships are pumped out, you have to wonder which will run out first, Vandul to kill or places to park.
That's right. Squadron 999 was not always F8s. They used Sabres in order to sell Sabres. It's that simple. Sabres were sold as the stealth ship even before stealth was even a twinkle in someone's eye. And basically it became a preeminent dogfighter to compete with the Super Hornet. It's a very interesting ship to this day, as stealth gameplay comes online more and more as a semi-stealth ship. It'll be still interesting, but also the old style of the Retaliator, I think, will be an interesting time capsule moment here. Because once the Retaliator gets its golden pass, which has a bunch of changes for the inside, which won't surprise me if they look different on the outside, at the very least the docking collars, and a few other touches that kind of bleed in from the outside in, from the inside out, will make big differences. It was also interesting to see the military tie-in with Aegis. Aegis, once again, playing up that script of Aegis is getting more contracts than Anvil and muscling Anvil out of the true military, so Anvil's forced to sell more to civilian sector, militia, etc. It's interesting play up there. And it's fine. It's absolutely fine. Once again, fleshes out the world. You can learn a lot from these videos and kind of see where everyone's head was at the time.
Well, there you have it. It's been an absolutely fantastic week, with this year's Expo going down as arguably the best one this year. Throughout it all, Galactic Tour has been there to give you the lowdown you longed for and bang up a few innocent ships along the way. From lumbering hulks to svelte sloops, today's ship enthusiast has no shortage of options. Sure, half of them may have their own unique quirks and peccadillos. Yes, I'm the captain. No, I don't want to use the toilet with the door open. But the point is that the choice is there. And choice is a wonderful thing. The chances of you finding a ship you love are greater than ever. And with what the manufacturers have been showing off these past few days, it seems it's only going to get better. Like a Banu slave, I only have hope for the future. Of course, that doesn't mean that there aren't still plenty of festering piles flying out there that you're going to want to avoid stepping in. But that's what Galactic Tour is for, isn't it? I'm Jax McCleary, and thanks again for joining me this week at the Intergalactic Aerospace Expo. Remember, life's too short not to be going as fast as you can. See you next time.
Unlike the rest that were distilled, I tried to leave this one in its entirety. It sent a good message. I thought that it really captured the elements of Jax McCleary's character in 2016 and how the videos were kind of presented. Each day these videos were released, they weren't all put in like a consumption bulk type of thing. So you could look forward to one of these each day of the event. And the antics, the comedy, the actual information relayed into them was well put together and well conceived. This is probably peak Jax McCleary. I think the other ones, as it gets later on, which I'll make another video about to tie in those, and I'll try to compare those to the future ones. There's 2 more years worth of Jax McClearys, and there's some specials for specific ships. But I believe that Jax back in 20 oh god, what the hell was it called back then? Oh, boy, it was the 2016. Okay. The 2016 release, the annual ship sale, which is officially called in game the 2946 Intergalactic Aerospace Expo. So I believe that the 2946 Jax McCleary is probably peak Jax McCleary, because he's just off the cuff. He's finding himself, and clearly he's able to kind of go crazy. I particularly enjoyed the Drake part and his kind of remarks on. Even though I'm not the biggest fan of his remarks on Origin, he was very honest, and even the once again. So yeah, picking apart Drake and Origin is always a crowd pleaser. So, but yeah, I'm a sucker for that stuff, I guess. This has been just kind of a fun, relaxed distill with Red J, kind of going through some of the interesting factoids, exciting different things that are tied in, and trying to capture some of the feelings we felt back in 2016, and that you'll feel if this is your first upcoming ship sale, the annual sale that happens every year in November, where all ships are for sale across a bunch of days. Each day has a manufacturer, or every 2 days it changes over, I should say. And there's waves of limited ships. As it gets closer, I will do a review video, kind of walking everybody through the process and how CCU chaining works and everything else. If you are new and you just sat through the Alien Week and previously the Fleet Week, understand that you've basically experienced the mini versions of this. It's just, instead of just focusing on military and alien, it's everything. So plan accordingly. Don't make any purchases. Stock your credit. Think about your buybacks, and keep your powder dry. Till next time, please like, comment, and subscribe. It helps the channel greatly, and have a wonderful weekend. Just a quick shout out to Spectre 13. Thank you for the artwork that you're seeing right now. Spectre 13 is from the subscriber community, and I was really appreciated that he could step up and make this wonderful art. Thanks again.